Welcome to Urban Fantasy PH. We are creatives who live in an urban society and give readers wish fulfillment by way of our stories, which is fantasy but reflective of reality. Here, we get to talk to fellow creatives like writers, authors, artists, comic book creators, filmmakers, you name it. We create and share our art here in the Philippines as well as abroad. My name is CJ Edmunds, I'm your host, and here is today's episode. Hey, good morning, fellow bookworms, book hoarders, book lovers, and creatives. This is another Wednesday. Of course, that means we've got another episode for you today. Today's episode number 47. And when you think about it, it does mark our seventh season. Wow, 7 seasons already. But like always, during an ongoing season, our show is aired every Wednesday, both for Spotify as well as on our YouTube channel. And you have the option to listen or to watch us. The choice is in your hands. But either or, I do hope that you click the subscribe button so you do not miss a single episode. Now, all of our past episodes are at the ready for you to return to or listen to them chronologically. That is, if you are joining us for the very first time. Now, our guest for today is a freelance project manager. He's also a creative director as well as a comic artist, and he's an author for more than 10 years now. And he has also been an animator for cartoons, and he has also published a children's book. And his book is called There's a Demon in My Head, and it was formerly self-published, and the title was that previously was called Patch, and this is actually due to be released this year under Komiket's Philippine International Comics Festival publishing arm. So lucky for me, I have the issues. Well, I write it right here. So let's bring him in and let's say hello and good morning to Mr. Miguel Luis Galang, or as he prefers to be called, Milo. Hello, Milo. Hello.
Hello. Hi.
Hi.
Nice to
Good
be
morning. Good
here.
morning. Morning. Welcome to Urban Fantasy
Good morning.
PH. And we met most recently and for the first time during the recently held PCOF, or Philippine International Comics Festival, last July 20 to 21 at the podium in Ortigas. I was wondering, was that the first time for you to join a con or a festival like that?
Oh, it's my first time in a while.
Oh,
I was
okay.
just uh mostly inactive nung around the pandemic and just a bit after.
Okay, okay, cool, cool. Yeah, everyone was, strapped down and you stay in your place during that time. Curious now because they say that and this is for different people that the lockdown has been the most productive time in their lives. So I was wondering, would that be the same for you?
Probably not.
Yeah,
Had a
because
few ano lang din. Had a few how do you call this? Just had a few family issues lang din at the time, so I wasn't
okay.
really able to work. Yeah, it was kind of a break for me at the time.
Okay, all right. Well, that's fine. I mean, it really depends on the scenario that you get to work, around or
Yeah.
within. So some people felt that the lockdown was the most productive time because there was nothing else to do except work on your art, and that's what you see 24 hours a day. But if you felt that that was a time for you to take a break and recharge, that's also perfectly fine. We all needed that. And also, whenever you speak of festivals or cons, let's say as a buyer or a reader, we at times entertain, I don't know, expectations of ourselves when we go into events like these, like how much money I'm going to spend on books and on merch. But as a creative and exhibitor, I was wondering, do you do any form of mental conditioning or expectation setting for yourself before the event?
I've been selling since around 2013.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, One of my first seatmates was actually, I think, Black Ink. So I think that
Oh,
kind of set
okay.
my expectations for the rest of my con life. Nga. Kasi I was new, my stuff wasn't really that good. And then katabi ko was si Black Ink and I think si Dexter Rojas. So I had two lines of fans for either of them on either side of me. Tapos walang pumapansin sa akin. And that was kind of a lesson, no?
Yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
the kind of thing. I've always looked at cons after that as a way to like interact and be physical with your fans, with your so like if you don't really make a profit, it's okay. Pero you have to come in there with the minds with preparation talaga. It's parang 90% preparation before you get there, and I think that's really what really helps me
Mm-hmm.
prepare for a con is having the mindset of bringing the right things and expecting the right things. Like I'm not expecting to like sell a lot or to make a name solely off of the con. Kasi like
Mm-hmm.
for example, this podcast, no, I still had to reach out to you um to get this opportunity rolling, no? So it's not always the case for everyone else. Na parang you can't
And
just
so
sit around. You
you
have to take initiative.
yeah, 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 exactly, exactly. And it's a good thing that I went there and with expectation, of course, seeing what's new and which are the new creators that I would love to talk to. And it's a good thing that you were there personally to man your table, and so at least we got to talk to you today. And since you said that you were also conditioning yourself prior to event, I guess you also factor in a little bit of the possibility, or if not the percentage, that what if your expectation was also not met after the event, right?
Mm.
Yeah, that's that's all part of it.
Mm,
Um, okay, speaking of prep time, you mentioned that you are a project manager as well as a creative director,
mm.
and at the risk of taking a peek into your day job, what kind of projects do you manage?
Oh, how do I say this without
Without
pissing people
spoiling.
off? Uh, let's just say part of my gigs. Actually, I was doing this nung pandemic instead of yung my personal projects because I needed some money.
Okay.
Uh, some of these were private creative ventures that
Mm-hmm.
required content, and that was what we supplied yung team ko. Um,
Mm.
and with the intent of selling these content,
Okay.
which happens to be monetizing pictures, if you know what I mean.
Okay. All right. All right. Okay. I got it. I got it. We don't need to what do you call it? We don't need to say the name of the company, but nonetheless, we get the idea. But sometimes creatives, like us, we would have to, I don't know, separate our creative brain from our work brain. But yeah, at times, if you're lucky, you can find creativity at work. I was wondering, were there instances that you can remember, I don't know, off the top of your head, where you were able to use both? I mean, find creativity in your work?
Yung last client gave me a lot of creative calls, at least. Kasi I think that's one of the best kinds of clients talaga, the ones who are confident in the project, confident in the people they hire. Kasi some of
Mm-hmm.
them talaga, they really just go into in the job market. They look for what I like to call sentient pencils.
Mm-hmm.
Pero this one, let us give 100% of ourselves, even more so. And that's the kind of client that's really nice to have.
If we can only choose our clients, right? And,
Yeah.
and screen
So
them in such
I
a way
got
that,
lucky. We got lucky.
good, good. That's nice to know. Because your work is obviously, it falls under the category of comics. Asking if you like comics is obviously a no brainer. But I was wondering, would you remember the first comic that you ever read that attracted you to the medium? Bonus yan pag if you still have
When
that particular comic till now.
I think I do still have it, but I think it's kind of buried in my pile. I've been
Storage.
meaning to get one of the reprints nga, kasi I've seen that the author had reprinted it and then is gonna sell it. Kasi it was one of my favorites before, no? Uh, well, this isn't a specific title, pero I did start off with kasi my mother bought this Snoopy encyclopedia for us, and I guess that kind of
Mm,
counts as my first comic. But something that
okay.
really got me into the medium was for some reason yung elementary library namin decided that it would be best to expose kids to Pugad Baboy. So
Okay.
Pugad Baboy 5, I think specifically, was the one I kept sneaking into the library to read.
To read. Okay.
Tapos uh it was a bit expensive lang din to, especially like to convince my parents to buy me the book, the comic book, kasi nga they prefer it if I read books, and I did. I do still have my foot in the literary door, so to speak. Um, and I do want to. My favorite book, I think, after that was Pugad Baboy 13, the one with
Okay.
the yellow cover.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's right. That's right. It's so. What timing? Because one of the questions I was going to ask after that, because so far, for most of the comic book creators that I've talked on the show, their mothers have been
Mm.
instrumental in introducing them to comics one way or another. It was the same for me for my mom because she would buy me comics after weekend visits to the dentist. In short, I got bribed to have my teeth cleaned. So that so that was one of my questions. That did your mom ever had anything to do with comics? So in a way, I think that answers my questions with regards to. Um, like a survey question when you think about it, that moms are basically instrumental in introducing us to our first reading material. So moms out there, thank you for that. And mom, thank you also for introducing me to comics. It's a good thing that I get to do that or read that before. Would that same comic, with the same Pugad Baboy comic, or if not the Snoopy comic that you said, that led you to tell yourself, you know what, I think I want to pursue this as a hobby or a second career, and I think I can make moolah out of it.
Um, Not necessarily the moolah part. I never really considered that. Although I did like have some considerations before going that. I think it
Okay.
was when I was a kid. I did something that upset my mom, and then like, she got mad. And then I don't know why, but I drew her like this old cartoon style that you see.
Mm-hmm.
Very simple, very very not exactly stick figure, but more just very cartoony. And then I drew her blowing smoke out of her ears, parang ano, 'di ba? Parang
Like she said, when
cartoon.
when she's mad, we're fuming
Yeah.
mad.
And she found it. She found the drawing, and instead of getting mad, she started like showing it off to her friends. And parang galing pala mag-drawing ni Miguel, ganyan. And then the kind of
Oh,
was kind of my first encouragement that maybe I did have some sort of talent sa ganyan. Even though looking back, it was just such a child's thing talaga to do. And I think eventually I did kind of get an interest in doing that talaga. I think high school. Kasagsagan
mm-hmm.
nung Full Metal Alchemist. And I love
Okay.
watching that show. And it was I don't know. I was kind of not very internet savant, so hindi ko accessible yung
Mm-hmm.
manga at the time. So it was really just the anime. So I thought it
Right.
was like, oh, I'm gonna get so good at drawing, I'm gonna get my own anime. And that's pretty much how most of us started out dreaming of.
Right. Right. And if you're halfway through negotiations, then you've done your bit. Lucky you.
Yeah.
Um, now that you mentioned it, people usually go through, or if not, get indoctrinated with drawings and how to sketch via anime. Would you say that the I don't know, the ratio of getting into drawing and sketching is because of anime, or is because more of Western cartoons? So where do you think? I feel that anime is sits higher there on the scale than Western influences.
Uh, I like. I like to recall one of my best friends always gives me shit for this. Like parang kasi I was exposed to Cartoon Network because my parents had cable, and then sabi nga, oh, rich kid
Okay.
ka, may Cartoon Network. So it was kind of a mix of both worlds. I didn't really like the anime. Well, a lot of the animes, Animax at the time, I did still prefer the ones that were carried by local carriers. You know,
Yeah.
we all like we all like them Ghost Fighters. We all like them. I know the Ranmas, ganyan, and it
Mm-hmm.
kind of got it to be kind of a mix for me. I remember my high school friends always did kind of describe my work as less anime and more Western,
Mm.
which I guess helped me a lot kasi my first job at animation, we did work for companies like Disney and Rovio. So yung that
Nice.
understanding of the style did help me a lot in advancing dun sa career ko na yun.
Mm-hmm. Was there any particular Disney character that was, I don't know, maybe assigned to you that you usually would draw? Is that how the workload goes, or it's like, you know, everyone gets a share of every character? How does it go then?
Oh, well, I'm not gonna talk about yung grievances ko with the animation industry today because that would just be a downer. Pero I will give a little bit of an insight. It was kind of assigned based on your skill level, and
Okay.
it wasn't necessarily for me. It wasn't necessarily because I was good at a particular character, but there were animators that were assigned specific characters because those characters were usually either main characters, so they needed to
Mm-hmm.
look good all the time, or they were very active characters, which means that they sang or they danced a lot, so they needed to get the movements consistent. Now, so it really was a question of consistency, and more of yung being able to get the client's wishes for the character aligned, no. So even
Mm-hmm.
as the project goes on, some clients do request specific animators because our client does our studio does inform them of who does who, and
Okay.
then and then they get to request, oh, can this guy do that and stuff like that. um I was still given I guess random scenes. Sometimes I get like a simple scenes that were just talking. Sometimes I get parts in singing or dancing or even action scenes. Like I remember I was put to work on a German film, cartoons naman, a German children's cartoon. So you know it's not
Okay.
really that concerning. And then it was kind of a mixed media thing. There was partially 3D assets involved in the scene, and our
Okay.
job was to draw characters driving a car that was 3D.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of fun because the character was in 2D, which was our job, and then the scene was also already laid out in 3D. Um, which was really something different for me at the time. I'm sure some of the other veterans have done stuff like that all the time. Because 3D being integrated into cartoons has been around since the 80s naman eh. So a lot of them probably knew that, experienced that na. And for me, it
Mm-hmm.
was fun because it was more than just getting characters to move statically on a 2D background.
Cool. Cool. We usually would see, you know, footages on how, let's say, a specific scene or a character is animated, and it's, you know, by different sheets of paper, and then the one action will grow, you know, like your hand would go up or it would go down. How much of that is non-existent now, and everything is just purely, you know, no more paper? Just out of curiosity.
When we were trained, this was around 2013 or 2014.
Hmm.
When we were training, they started us off on paper, and our final project was
Okay.
even to do something on paper. So we'd have them scan the pictures, and then we'd set them to the proper timing, and then that was our training. But immediately when we were pulled to the production floor, all of the projects were already digital, pero we were
Mm.
able to use our skills in 2D on the project. Kasi a lot of the projects at the time were still using 2D. They called it paperless or they called it 2D. When you hand draw it like the old Disney studios did. Pero right now, cutout animation, which is kind of like 2D, but it involves puppeteering and more than drawing. So
Mm.
drawing is still applied, but only still in specific assets to augment the puppet. You'll see sometimes a lot of new cartoons are done with cutout, but they don't look like they're puppets because of how diverse the software and the skill of the animators has already become.
Mm.
2D paperless, the one that we used to do, um, I don't really see a lot of it anymore. Our studio even had to convince some of the clients to let us do some of the shows in 2D. Basically, we would trace the animations and then copy paste and make the puppets ourselves out of the 2D drawings. Now, just to give
Wow.
some of the 2D department a job,
Yeah, something to do.
something to do. Yeah, basically, I really felt like maybe we were kind of losing jobs because just before I left, we were doing Facebook stickers. It's a bit of a fall from animated series on TV, pero yung
Right.
whatever gets the studio afloat talaga. From what I hear, there has been a resurgence naman talaga in 2D and cutout, and it has been helping some of the studios stay alive lately
Right.
naman.
Indeed, not just in animation, but also I guess there's retro gaming, right? If you don't like if you don't like your PC gaming, you can go back to an old fashioned console and just play and plug it on your TV, and then you're good to go. So everything. I think everything is a cycle, and it all comes back and fuels, I guess, a brand new generation when you think about it. And speaking of cycle, I'd also like to think that creativity itself is in a way a cycle as well. You could be working on something that's now, but something in the back of your head sort of like nudges you and say that there's a project that you've shelved for the last 5 years. You need to get back to doing that. So, so I was wondering, for you, is there, let's say, I mean, we know that we're going to get into talking about your current project, but I was wondering, would there be a project that you sort of like, I put on the shelf or in the back burner for now because it's either I didn't have time for it, or you feel that your experience is not up to par for you to tackle a project of that magnitude?
Uh, oh my god, you just opened up a beehive because I do
Uh
have a lot on the back burner.
oh.
What would you like? I have coming of age stories. I have dystopian stories. I have
Cool.
stories about death. Because I think
Sure. Go ahead.
mm,
Whatever you would want to talk about, and maybe the one that has been nudging you at the back of your head and saying that, "Shh, pansinin mo naman ako."
well, when I was starting out making patch at the time it was called, I did ask a few friends like what would they rather see as a story,
Mm.
and one of the other choices that I did present to other people, which did feel cool to them at the time, because there was a lot of political upheaval during the time where I was asking it. There was a story I did, which it I do occasionally still do art of it. I call it Contract Killer Kina, or CKK.
Hmm.
It was about this orphan girl who had a double life as a college student, and in her after school she'd take on contracts and kill people basically, and was set in a because I graduated from UST, so I had a lot of experience around the Sampaloc area. So
Yay!
uh,
Este, go Tigers. Este din eh.
there's a better tiger statue. But yeah, she would be based around Sampaloc, and it was kind of my very cathartic outlet for hoping or experiencing that maybe that somebody would clean up the streets. Ganyan,
Mhm.
before that was kind of a political stance. Na. So it was just kind of a wishy-washy thing for me to believe in. Like she'd have principles. She'd take on
Mhm.
contracts that would against corrupt officials or like
Okay.
crime lords, stuff like that. So it wasn't just any contract. It was because of her personal trauma. Because she was herself an orphan, and who took her in was what do you call this? Let's just call them kind of a Muslim 357 archetype. Fernando Poe Jr. kind of character.
Okay.
Tapos she'd be raised in through violence, pero like the older mentor would try and steer her away from that.
Mhm.
Something to do with I guess now you could see it as how in the Mandalorian kind of raised Grogu through
Yeah.
violence, and then Grogu learned violence, but then he tried to steer him away, and that was kind of the thing. But tragedy still struck, and Kina, the protagonist, would still learn violence as her outlet, and
Hmm.
that would be the main story. That was kind of like a more edgier take or story that I could have gone through, but I feel like there wasn't a lot of stories I could tell through that. It was fun, I guess, for the time, pero it was still either that or develop Patch, and I chose Patch, and now she's under the title of "There's a Demon in My Head."
That's right.
Though
That's
that
right.
wasn't the
Which
comic
is
that I
here.
started. Yeah, that wasn't the comic that I started with in Comiket. Actually, I Comic Con. Actually,
Oh,
I did
okay.
start selling a title called PE Day, which was a pitch idea I did have for an animated series before,
Hmm.
and I eventually just did develop it as a coming of age comic. I would have to be tackling topics like bullying and feeling out of place and finding your place in life through the friends that you make.
Cool, cool. I am digging that story that you just mentioned, and even if it's not a long running series, maybe just a 5 issue arc or something. I would love to see that. That sounds great, to me. So who knows? Who knows? I mean, we can
Yeah.
always. The good thing about shelving work is that you can always come back to it. When the time is right, and if the time is right, then I'm sure it will beckon you again. So, without spoiling us running, can you tell our viewers a little bit of what the comic is all about? And can you also tell us how you began writing the comic and what was the inspiration for it?
Well, the comic is really about this call center girl, Patricia Patch Chavez, um, and she has kind of like a really rough life. She got demoted at work. She's buried in debt. She's living a life that she knows she brought on herself because of her laziness and underachieving. And then one day, she comes across a demon in a church, which gives her kind of this covenant that he would be sheltered in her body, and in exchange, he'd give her access to his abilities, which
Right.
were kind of like, I guess, superpowers. You could describe it as that, or I guess a deal with a demon, a deal with the devil,
Yeah.
which some people would typically use to start a life of how do you this chasing ambition or being or taking advantage of these. And what she does is she does want to do that. She did grow up on anime, and she does want to live out those kinds of adventures, but life does force her to stick back to keep grounded on reality, and she does use her powers to, like I always pitch, skip the commute to work.
Yep, she can definitely do that. And speaking
Yeah.
about being grounded in reality, nothing can ground you more than working the night shift in the call center. So,
Yes.
and that's basically what Patch does. But you know what? If you were the ones who visited, let's say, Peakoff, and you got your own copy, and you see that this comic is the first 2 issues combined. So while I know the
Yeah.
answer to this, some of our listeners may not. So I was wondering, why do we only have 2 issues here?
The first 2 issues in that one. Actually, when I was releasing that, I was kind of pressed for time in publishing it. I wasn't able to finish the full thing, which I actually just called chapter one. I wasn't able to finish the full thing in time for a Comic Con. So what I did was I chopped it up and then I released the next issue like a few months later in the next Comic Con as issue two. And then later I did just combine them so the story would be better and more complete to read,
Hmm.
which I did feel was better for consumers rather than buying issue one, getting a really abrupt uh, cliffhanger after just 20 pages, and then having to pay again for the next one. So I just combined the two, and then I
Okay.
released chapter two and chapter three on their own separate issues. They're about the same length in a man, because that's really kind of how I write my books. They're in around the 30 to 50 page. Sorry, that's a big bracket. 30 to 50 page window for me.
Hmm. Let's say if you get these issues, let's say individually, not in a compiled way, and you said that estimate it's about 30 to 40 pages, about 30,
Mm.
30 to 40. This automatically makes it a comic and not a zine, right? Or is that,
Mm.
or
Uh,
is it somewhere, is it somewhere lying in between that classification? And when you think about it, when does a zine become a comic, and when does a comic is actually a zine for I mean for you?
for me, it's really how far you can fold the paper and it to still. Because from me, for what I understand, uh, I understand zines from a technical point of view. So
Hmm.
zines are basically stuff you can just like fold together and then
Okay.
publish as a booklet. For a lot of people, they still attach a lot of philosophical meanings to the genre of the zines, and I guess it's fair to say that parang zines can be like 5 to 10 pages or 10 to 20
Hmm.
pages. Uh, for me, a comic is a comic as long as it has, the bog standard definition of what a comic is from, let's say, Scott McCloud, which is a two sequential uh, images telling a story,
Hmm.
and then a zine can be any sort of mixed media of that. It could be mostly text, it could be mostly pictures.
Hmm.
It could not necessarily be a comic, but a comic could be a zine because of the short length. But to me, there is kind of a overlap between them naman at all times. But for me, when I say it's a comic, not a zine, or rather, I prefer to call it a comic, is when it's too thick na for the booklet. Because there is a limit naman that you could fold the paper, diba?
Right,
For
right.
me, it's I think when I hit 20 leaves, 20 leaves. Sorry, I forgot the term when it's like the sheet, the broadsheet, and then you
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
fold it together.
Right.
I'm sure somebody out there knows the term
So
for it,
someone out
the
there will
proper
know
term
that,
for it.
and they will probably comment on
Yeah.
it. I get
So,
it. Yeah,
sorry,
as long as
I know.
in excess of 20, that for you is the classification. It becomes a comic, and less of a zine. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. I
really
get
more of
it.
a spectrum, but I wouldn't like say, oh, this is a comic. This is not a zine. I'm like call it whatever. For me, I'd like to call it a comic.
Okay. All right.
Mm.
Are we going to get the, I don't know, the history of how Patch got the demon in her head? Because it doesn't, for now it doesn't show it here. Is there going to be some sort of like, uh, prequel to the whole thing, or a one shot?
Yes. My publisher has been bugging me about that, and it will be part of the book. The book will be
Yay!
coming out hopefully September, if not October,
Oh, just
because
in time for MIBF then.
yeah, hopefully,
Hopefully.
because I could probably pull out the issue zero that my publisher has been asking out for by September, but the book still has to have an issue five, which is going to continue from uh, the previous unfinished story, the previous issue.
Okay.
No,
All right.
so just to round out this arc of the story, because by the time there's going to be a very drastic shift in Patch's story after issue five. So I want to cap the first volume book off there. So it will be issue 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 of the book.
Nice, nice, awesome, awesome, great. I can't wait for the book, and for sure when it comes out, I'll be one of the ones who need to get it. All right, and for those who are listening and watching, you do better to get it as well when it comes out. All right. I asked my guests also about the correlation of creation and bravery. So I was wondering, do you think there's a connection between the two?
Oh yeah, of course. I like to always think that authors who put their works out there are very brave, as you put it, because there's a lot of accountability to be held for authors, no? Because you're putting out words that could be taken out of context, or topic you could
Mm-hmm.
handle topics that you may not necessarily handle as well as some people think you should.
Right.
And I think it's a very brave thing to do that, and then just put yourself out there, and then it's really up to you if you want to correct your mistakes, if you want to build off of them. And to me, that's like one of the best things about being a creative. Like you get to have that
Mm-hmm.
opportunity to voice out your thoughts, your opinions in a creative way. And it's really up to us as well to take accountability, because some creatives are afraid of that. Some creatives are, especially like I hear like a lot of people saying, "Oh, I can't make this kind of story anymore. I'll get canceled. I can't make
Right,
that
right.
anymore."
There's that fear of judgment, right?
Yeah,
That you'll be judged
and
for it.
my guiding principle has always been my mother's words, which were, uh, to put it in Tagalog, bakit sila ba nagpapalamon sa akin? Or or in English, why? Do they feed me? Do they support me? These
Yeah,
people who are saying these things, diba? Parang sometimes
yeah.
kasi you get a lot of detractors from outside of your intended market, and it's really up to you if you want to listen to them, because some people will always have a good nugget of creative criticism. And
Mm-hmm.
as long as constructive, sorry, not creative, constructive criticism. And if you're willing to listen to those, you might be able to find that you can unleash your potential even better. Kaya nga, like, funny nga kasi, like, the concept of publishers kind of messing or interfering with creatives is kind of a new thing recently. And a lot of Filipino comicers and creatives are worried about that. And some have actually asked me how much my publisher has been interfering in my work. And I said, no, not much, because what they have been giving me is constructive criticism, because they have read my work, they have read my manuscripts, and they've been
Mm-hmm.
able to create, they've been able to bring out what I intend to uh, show, but haven't been able
Mm-hmm.
to, probably because of a lack of experience, or probably to a lack of confidence on my part. And because of they're able to express that, and able to accept it, I think that's a really good way to have a relationship with a publisher, like, to figure out what works and what doesn't. Because as creatives, as authors, we are not always right. We are always
Yeah.
operating from a very limited point of view. That's why I like to, as a creative, I like to diversify my hobbies. I like to keep up my other interests. No, so I will always have a breadth of topics and knowledge to draw from. Not just sorry, I'm going to step on some people here. Not just my daily experiences on the
Mm-hmm.
street, or on my in my very mundane life. Because uh, I, I don't know, this is gonna still apply today. But in my day, when I was on college org for writing, we did kind of have a cold war with the CNF people, because my people were the specfic people,
Okay.
uh, because we were kind of really tied into to UST's creative writing. A lot of them did favor creative nonfiction, and
Mm-hmm.
we were the Star Wars guys. We were the science fiction guys, and we wanted our place in the sun. No, so
That's why I'm wearing this. Perfect.
oh, look at my empire.
Yes, there you go.
Yeah, but we wanted our time in the sun. That's why we kind of had like factionalism at the time, and
Mm.
that for me was kind of a driving force then of coming to terms with how really the lit world and the topics of comics and I did find that it was more fun hanging out with the spec fic people. I'm not just like uh soloing yung the CNF people. They're some of the most creative, some of the most excellent writers that I have met in my life. Pero I do still like being with the spec fic crowd. No, 'cause, I don't know.
Yay!
I guess I guess I was raised too much on spaceships and pew pew lasers and stuff like that. That I did end up liking that kind of style. No, I was like workshop in one of the university wide seminars before. Na kasi I didn't really know a lot of the rules about literary writing. So what in specifically, I think I remember when a character would shout, I'd type it in all caps on the manuscript, and then they told me, "Oh, you shouldn't do that. You should just like describe it. Oh, the character, let's say, Michael bellowed at the top of his lungs. Ganyan. You shouldn't. If you're going to all caps your manuscript, you might as well go into comics, and I did.
Good, good, good. Well, who knows? You may also down the line decide to go literary as well and create a book based on your comic. That will be good too, right? Like mine your own IP sort of thing. So you know that would be great as well. Well, we are sort of like nearing the end of our talk, and I'd like to throw you some craft questions before we officially wrap things up. I was wondering, different people will handle this differently. Any tips for handling writer or creative blocks?
This ties into my advice then before, like diversify your hobbies and your interests. Because
Hmm.
uh, whenever I see or hear people get into art blocks and they just can't draw anything, I always find that it's something that can be solved on a technical basis.
Okay.
Because when people don't know get an art block, it's because they don't know how to draw something. And something that I
Mm.
learned from animation is that you need to learn to reference things. Sorry, maulan na. You need to reference things from the real world because you'll never
Okay.
know how to draw something if you don't know what it looks like, and if you're only relying on your imagination, your recollection, it's not going to work because you have to still draw from something that isn't there. So you have to
Hmm.
diversify what we call your visual library. No,
Mm.
so whenever you experience your writer's block, your artist block, I'd advise now you go out there and then you experience new things. Because like especially with writing, a lot of people just tend to stick to one genre and then they get frustrated when they try to explore it. Because they're trying to write, let's say, crime fic from the perspective
Hmm.
of a writer. When in reality, the best way to write a crime fic is to do research and then write from the perspective of somebody who would be involved in crime. I'm not saying na maging criminal ka. I'm saying na you should like do research. There are a lot of available resources. Like for example, mga research books about criminal behavior. You could also like get into podcasts about true crime stuff like
Right.
that.
There are a lot out there.
You could even interview police officers, although I don't know how you feel about local police officers. That's up to you. They are still a resource. I'm still saying they are resource people. Some of them are willing to talk. Thesis namin yan nung college. We did like
Yeah.
respondents namin were police officers in Manila,
Nice.
and they were very interesting to talk to. And if you do, I'm pretty sure that there are some there, maybe relatives mo that are used to um, doing that thing. Malay mo, relate ka pala sa serial killer. Tito, tito, paano ka pumapatay?
Diba? Do you bond your victims when they're conscious or unconscious? Which one first?
It's really good to immerse yourself. also in like other things then, kasi sometimes the best crime stories are not from crime stories. Um, for me, one of my other hobbies is that I'm really into World War II war machines, basically
Mm,
planes, tanks, vehicles, stuff like that. And I do like yung I feel like it really enriched the way I also enjoy mecha. Because
mm-hmm.
when you understand how some of these machines work, how some of the crew members operate, mecha starts to feel like a fantasy version of these things, and you would never have known this perspective if you only stuck to the perspective of being from a
For
mecha
that
fan, no?
particular, yeah, right, exactly. So not just, not just to think out of the box, but also to go out of that particular box, and I don't know, maybe go into the other boxes, right?
Yeah.
And play in that particular sandbox. Who knows? You might actually find some other toys there that you didn't have, that you either may want to copy, or you may want to borrow, and use it for yourself. Well, great. That's one great advice. Well, I was wondering, what would be the biggest lesson or maybe wake up call that you've learned in being a creative that sort of down the line has become a life lesson to you?
My motto has always been to be better than you were yesterday. So that
Mm,
always means that you enrich yourself, either by learning a new way to draw something. Like, for example, you don't know how to draw hands, you don't know how to draw feet, like a lot of people, and you could always make it your goal to learn how to do that.
mm-hmm,
But it doesn't have to do that. You could just be like drawing adjacent. You could just be like watching TV series, playing video games, as long as you're enriching yourself, learning something new every day. And this is also like tied into something that I also see a lot of creatives get frustrated about. Because age reveal, I'm 32. So, a lot of my peers, a lot of my colleagues,
mm-hmm.
my contemporaries, some of them get frustrated whenever they see these new artists. They go like, "Oh wow, he's just 19, she's just 21. What yung I don't think I can ever catch up." Ganyan. I want to quit, give up on art, and they're like, no, you don't have to, because these people have different backgrounds. Maybe they were drawing since they were 5 years old, and now that they're 18 or 19, that means they've been drawing for 13 years. Whereas maybe you, at 32, maybe you've just been drawing for 5 years, 4 years, ganyan. And the important part is going back to my lesson is always learn. This is a competition between you and yourself. Because I know that a lot of creatives have gotten into this craft with a goal, with ambition, with taste. No, maybe you've always wanted, like me, to uh, make your own Full Metal Alchemist sort of success, and then
Mm-hmm.
the longer you go, parang I'm not getting it. I'm not getting it. It's frustrating. I want to quit. Yeah. What you want to do is you always want to cut down your ambition to bite-sized pieces that you could always like take chunks off every day. Get better every day, and then compete with yourself. Because there is a difference between your ability right now and
Mm-hmm.
and your taste, that the thing that you want to do eventually. So you have to close the gap between those things, and then eventually maybe you can surpass it.
Makes it more manageable, when you think about it,
Yeah.
right? I mean, yeah, I mean, just, probably you can look. You could probably look at your end goal maybe as a big chunk of steak that you feel that is best eaten, with three people. But if you, as you said, cut it into little bite-sized pieces and hack away at it, one piece at a time, you'll eventually finish it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Agree.
Yep.
Would there be a specific time of day that you feel most creative? Are you, like, you work or draw better in the morning or in the evening or in the afternoon, or especially after coffee?
2 a.m.
2 a.m. Nice.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
when
when
when the
you're like,
house is quiet.
yeah, we peak hyper, but you're also tired.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes I do feel a little bit of, it's like, that it's 12, or what you've been scrolling, YouTube or whatever since, early in the evening, and then it's time to go to sleep. And then when an idea hits you at 12:30 or 1 a.m., you feel that you have to write it down, and then wala na. You just feel that you have to give in and at least punch in 500 words into it, or something like that. So yeah, I hear you on the on the 2 a.m. Any rituals perhaps before you sort of like psych yourself into creative mode? I don't know, light a candle, or whatever whatever you do to get your juices flowing.
I swoosh my toys around and make engine noises like pew pew pew, stuff like that. I
That's
am a
gonna work.
child.
Yes, we all are. We all are. We all are children. And
I am a child.
If you have Funkos to go with that, then they can also talk to each other and play along with that. What
I
are you
don't like
currently
Funko Pops. I do prefer.
really? You don't like Funko Pops?
Yeah,
But but you know
yeah,
what?
I do prefer collecting minifakes.
That's actually I sort of had to okay, there you go.
Kind of-
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I had the same
I find
issue.
that I can able to play with it more.
Ah, I feel that when Funko Pops first came out, I figured these are the ugliest looking toys ever. Like little legs and big heads with big eyes that bug out of their sockets. They're not cute. And then I chanced upon a Funko of Vader, and then I got sold. And then that was it. That was like anything, not really anything, but more like if I feel a certain affinity to, let's say, to the franchise or to the character in question, and there's a Funko, I just feel gravitated toward it. So I am, I've turned my back on saying that Funkos are not cute and all that. I mean, they're there for you to bring around to inspire
You
you
can
to
say no to
write or
this.
to. Yes, there you go.
Can a Funko do this?
Yes, a Funko cannot do that. True, true,
Unfortunately.
true. Alas, exactly. So for those who are interested, and there's not a con in sight in the near in the next week or so, where can they get copies of the comic?
Used to be because there was a platform that hosted a lot of these comics online, and I always advocated that I want people to read my work for free in a platform, and of course, the book would also like be more of a direct support for me. But
Hmm.
first and foremost, I did like want people to read it, but unfortunately, the platform shut down. And nowadays, I've still been trying to find a better place to host my stuff on, something short of a blog blog spot or something like that. But I am offering the uh, the full things for free if they just ask for me. I could just give them a link to the cheat drive.
Wow. Oh wow, that's mighty generous of you. That's mighty generous. But of course, we always will want to, support artists and support their art, and that's why we'd rather have something that's tangible in our hands, rather than something that you can just scroll through as part of an email attachment. Any advice for those who are still in the process of, you know, of drawing their own, or finishing their own comic or their own work, like, or if let's say there's someone out there who would want to try and create their own comic, should the pictures come first, or does the script have to come first? Which one should really it be?
Um, it doesn't really matter. I think those are two very uh well, I guess my advice, I guess, because I'm a different kind of creative. I do prefer to sketch out the works, and then because I don't like writing dialogue agad, although it
Mm,
is one of the things that I'm particularly good at. I I don't know if you've I don't know. Sorry, it's gonna go back to Lego. I don't know if you played like
it's
the
all
old
right.
PlayStation Lego games, no, PlayStation 2, but they don't really talk. They just like "Rawr."
Yeah.
And what I do is like, I think, and it's also why I like to have these physical things with me. Whenever I try to write, I just like to try to imagine yung interactions and how characters feel about each other, and
Mm-hmm.
kind of the dialogue flows through later when you start creating a visual for it. So I guess for somebody who doesn't, like not everybody has a Lego. Somebody like that, I used to sketch them out like yung mga very simple ways to express them, no? So I just draw like really angry faces, looking at each other, talking to each other, and the script and the visuals kind of develop from them. So it's just important to get something on paper because
Mm-hmm.
everything flows from there. I find that a lot of people are also get stuck on this idea, like, parang, oh, do I draw it first or do I script it out first? You don't have to do either because you're off the mentality that you have to create an output first, and a lot of people don't realize that you don't have to. You can just like make a sketch, make a doodle, and
Mm-hmm.
then have things come from that. No,
Okay.
you can always finalize ideas later, pero you don't have to. And I find that this is what a lot of people are held back by. You don't have to make something presentable. You can just like mess
Okay.
around in your own place. Like parang in my case, I played in my head. Now the figures just help. No, I played in my head. Like two characters are going like, and yes, the mumbling is part of it because I don't want dialogue written first. I want emotions first. Parang
Okay.
you, oh, this character doesn't like this character. Why? Oh, kasi he took his final chicken joy. Oh, that's where it's all gonna flow from.
Yeah.
Uh,
Right. Right.
let the emotion flow. Uh, let the
As,
emotion flow.
as
Let the
Palpatine would
flow
say,
through you.
feel the hate flow through you.
Yes. Strike me down.
And take your father's place at my side.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm still looking for a Palpatine. There hasn't been a good set recently that has a Palpatine. But
Sige, if I
I'm
see any, I'll let you know. I'll clue you in.
He's probably
Um,
in Bricklink.
oh
Somebody
yeah,
probably is selling him for like 400, 500
oh
pesos.
God, yeah, most probably, most probably. For those who would want to know more about what you do and how to get inspired by what you do, where can they follow you on social media?
You can follow me on Instagram. That's probably where I post some of my art, but I am making a comeback, so don't expect any recent stuff there. It's Ransom Rogers. Let me check.
Ransom Ransom Rogers. Okay,
Yes.
where did the
Yes,
name
it's
come
it's a
from?
red Earl. I I was a psych grad, and a lot of people like to think na parang, oh, it's just Milo being colonial. No, no. Actually, one of my when I was studying psych, one of my favorite psychologists was Carl Rogers, and then his full
Okay.
name was Carl Ransom Rogers, because the tenets of his psychology was basically if the client doesn't want to change, we can't force it. And I think that's like
Ah,
also given a lot my philosophy given to my philosophy a lot of the time na parang if somebody doesn't want to do to improve, we can't really help them, which also ties into like some interactions in the creative community, like parang if they don't think that their art can improve, there's not really nothing you can do. So you just you stop making that an issue. You just parang let them be, for
I get
better or
it.
for
I get it.
worse.
Exactly, exactly. Same handle for Facebook and Twitter, perhaps.
My Facebook na lang. What is it? You can
I,
find you can find my comic. There's a demon in my head. Facebook.com/demonheadcomic. So that's demon with an A, and then demon head comic. And as for the my general art on Facebook, it's just Earl is Art of Milo Galang, but the display name is Ransom Rogers.
okay. All right. I shall put that in the show notes so that people can can follow you and bug you. Right. I just
Anytime.
followed you on IG with the podcast. So and I'll do that as well with my own. So I'll bug you there. So thank you so much, Milo, for today. That is a wrap. I had so much fun and there's so much nuggets of on wisdom and creativity and also perseverance in the talk that we had. And I wish you all the best in all your future writing endeavors. And when the complete book comes out, I will be one of those who needs to get a copy, and I will have you sign it as well. All right.
All right.
Thank you to Spine Books for your support since day one, and to our friends over at Nerd Nibbles. You can follow them as well on Instagram, especially if you like mushroom flavored chips. And if you are a creative and you'd like to be featured on the podcast, feel free to email us at urbanfantasyph@gmail.com. And everything that you need to know about what I do as well, simply visit cjedmunds.com. Follow the show on Facebook, Instagram, and of course, Threads as well. And I will see you in the next episode. Enjoy the rest of the week. See you on the next one. Indie Creatives Unite. Keep creating, keep reading, and we will obviously be buying them as long as you keep creating it. All right. Stay creative. Namaste and blessed be. Happy Wednesday, everybody. That was another episode of Urban Fantasy PH. Join us next time as we feature another creative soul who wants their art to be seen, heard, and shared. If you have your own work to share, just email us at urbanfantasyph@gmail.com. For the next episode, this is independent author, singer-songwriter, radio personality, voice actor, and fellow creative, CJ Edmunds, reminding you to always listen to your heart, create with your mind, and share with your soul. Goodbye, everybody. Namaste. Blessed be.